Se hva vi trenger. Folk må... Vibeke, du kan bare... So if everyone could please take their seats so we have time for the second part. Thank you very much. Yes, I think we close the doors and we get started if you all take your seats, please. Yeah. So welcome back, everyone. My name is Elisabeth Sjåstad. I'm the president of the Norwegian Filmmakers Association. I'm also the former CEO of FERA and a current board member of FERA. I'm very pleased now to have this Directors in Dialogue session, and to introduce it, I would like to start out by saying that in 1973, a 28-year-old Vibeke Løkkeberg went to the Berlin, the first ever International Women's Film Seminar, to screen her film Abortion, which she had made 2 years previous. She took with her a camera team, and she was planning to sell a documentary to the Norwegian national broadcaster NRK. However, they did not want to buy it, and the footage was lost. And then just a few years back, it was refound in the National Library in Norway. I myself saw the material last year, and it made me think, and it hit me immediately, that if FERA had been started 7 years earlier than it was, in 1973, this would be what our meetings would have looked like, rather than the men's club that was started in 1980. I have to say that it also what struck me was that society at large has changed more than the film industry. And us thinking ourselves as progressive industry, it really makes us think, and that's food for thought. And now, an 80-year-old Vibeke returns to Berlin for the world premiere this evening of the finished film. And there's also this meta perspective that we are now gathered here, filmmakers and policymakers, once again in Berlin, to try to make this progress move faster. So now we have a very exclusive excerpt for you to see that we put together especially for this occasion, and it's a sneak preview of the film that has its world premiere this evening and also screens tomorrow. So let's have a look. It's a 10-minute excerpt.
Why did you come to the festival? Because I'm a journalist.
I really broke down. I mean, not physically, but sort of psychologically, because I couldn't stand it. That means that you always have to prove. You always have to prove something. Prove. You have to be better. You have to know everything. You have to do everything right, you know. And you always have to be better than let's say, I don't know, the average. I don't know what the average is, but let's say the average. You always have to prove that you can do everything, and that you are, and you're always exploited sexually at the same time, all the time. It's not like in the old Hollywood times where everyone wanted to go to bed to you, though it's still very much like that. I mean, I encountered it all the time, you know, that more or less all people tried to find out if it would be possible to go to bed with you or not, you know. And if not, they didn't ask, of course, but they tried to find out if you are sexually also some of their kind or not, you know. And if they thought that you are, I don't know, a freak of some sort, or a lesbian, or I don't know what they ever thought, because always if a woman works hard, she's thought to be a lesbian, of course.
Yeah.
That is the name of honor nowadays. So, I mean, in the women's movement. So, puff, it's finished, you know.
If you do
I mean,
anything
you
good,
drop
are you
in their
getting,
esteem.
you know, do they tell you that you're doing anything good?
Oh no, I never did anything good in television.
Do you
I never
feel sometimes that you are getting punished because when you have done something good?
Yeah, because I don't follow the rules. We don't follow the rules. We don't follow the rules. We are not laughing, smiling, being attractive, being charming all the time, you know. Because we walk in and say, we want this and we want that, and then, oh, this aggressive lesbian bitch, oh, horrible. And of course, you know, it's incredible, you know. If we just sit there and not even say, and sort of say, okay, we want to do and this and that, and if we know what we want, that is already an aggression. Then you're already aggressive if you know what you want. And there was one remark which really put me off years and years ago. It was one redacteur whom I knew since a very long time and talked politically. He was a leftist, everything. And then suddenly I told him about something, a friend coming for a weekend, and I smiled like that. And I said, my friend, and then he said, oh, but that you could be in love, I would never have expected. I fell off my chair. I thought, what the hell is going on? I mean, I was still very young at that time. So I was very surprised that this schmuck could think that I could not be. You know, what the hell did he think I was? I mean, that you always put in the cliche. Either you're the charming, attractive, a more or less passive woman, but also making career, like many women in the media still do, unfortunately, or else you are the hard, tough, aggressive bitch who is not liked, of course, and who is not given the things to make, you know.
You all agree to this?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
I mean, I suppose it's true. I mean, one of the things I did not study to be a filmmaker. I really came into film as a teacher, and it's really, I mean, it is how I've earned my living. And I know at this point in my life, I'd never earn my living off filmmaking. It's too hard. It's too competitive. It's somewhere still way out there.
Yeah. But do you think the man had it as difficult as you got it?
Oh, absolutely not.
Before I introduce and call Vibeke to the stage, I also want to acknowledge here the presence of one person who you just saw up there on the screen. That is Ariel Dougherty. Ariel, would you stand up, please? So since these times, Vibeke Løkkeberg, who is an actress, director, and novelist, went on to become one of Norway's most important and also controversial filmmakers. For more than 50 years, she has been an uncompromising spokesperson for society's most vulnerable groups, and several of her films thematize specific female experiences and also look at the less idyllic side of the nuclear family from the child's point of view. In terms of style, the films are broad in scope, from modernist through grandiose and melodramatic to documentary. She appeared in 12 films between 1967 and 1991. Her film Hud, Skin, was screened in the Un certain regard section of the 1987 Cannes Film Festival. And Vibeke also has 2 daughters who are both filmmakers. Vibeke's eldest daughter, Tonja Christiansen, was supposed to be here today to do this Directors in Dialogue with her, but unfortunately this morning she woke up here in Berlin with a really bad flu, so I will have to step in. But Tonja is a documentary filmmaker, a moderator, writer, and the founder of Her Platform, a speaker series that celebrates the journeys of inspiring women across diverse fields, and she's based in the US. She was educated as an actress at the Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute in New York, and then she went on to study filmmaking in Norway. So I want to first now invite you up to the stage with me, Vibeke. And then I want to start off by actually reading to you the introduction that Tonja was going to give now, because I thought 2 generations, this panel is called 2 Generations of Filmmakers, and I'm the 7th generation of Tonja, but I thought it was really interesting to read the words that Tonja, so I wanted to read them to you and have you respond to them, because Tonja writes, "When I first saw the archival material, I felt a connection to my mother that I hadn't before. Growing up, filmmaking felt like a battleground. Her work competed for attention, making it hard to fully understand and appreciate what she was doing in the bigger picture, both as a child and later as a young woman. But seeing the long road to the director's chair footage from her younger years made me look at her differently, much like when I first saw her first feature film, The Revelation, when I was 20-something. The footage is very pure in its form, and so are these women that you have seen here, and my mother as an interviewer, and all their candid and transparent talks. I had assumed men and women had equal opportunities in film because my parents worked as a team. But when I entered adult life, both personally and professionally, I realized that wasn't the case. It was a wake-up call, and I'm still puzzled by it in every aspect of life, especially by how women have to prove so much more in everything, from mothering to working and making choices for their lives, facing a bar that is often set impossibly high, both by others and by ourselves. Somehow, we can never be enough and are always at risk of criticism, no matter what we do. We often believe past generations have paved the way, but gender equality in filmmaking and in everything else is still very much ongoing, especially where power, money, and creative innovation language exists, where there is real stake and competition. Too often, women are expected to adapt a male perspective instead of telling and living stories in their own voices from their own experiences. We have seemingly solved much in theory and on paper, but most of these issues, like the ones addressed in the film, are still very present when you move through life as a woman. True progress isn't about making everything the same, it's about valuing differences and supporting them. And the challenges women face need real support, not more pressure to fit into standards never designed for them. Women's narratives don't need to mirror men's to be compelling. Their strength lies in their own perspectives and experiences and the depth they bring to storytelling. By embracing these differences, we create a more dynamic and complete understanding of the world. And women's stories are necessary. We always need to recognize their full value, not as an alternative or a side comment, but as an essential part of the narrative landscape and stories that help us understand human condition.
Well, thank you to Tonja.
Yeah.
Thank you to you.
So Vibeke, seeing yourself up on the screen now as a 28-year-old, when you went to this Berlin for the first time, why did you bring a camera team? Why did you think that this might be important, be an important event to document?
Well, I already in '68 knew I would go into this field because I had been acting and writing in two movies by a male, a very good director, who was then my husband. And I thought I influenced the movie to change the picture of woman as an object. That was my goal. I was a photo model who was kind of reacting towards being a model, an object for the camera or for man at all. And I came out opposite. I came out, in his view, like, you know, someone beautiful, sexy, and that was also the critics, in a way, what they saw. They were not mature to see what the message was. They couldn't see past the woman's figure, in a way. And that made me so angry. So when we were interviewed after the movie, I remember a critic or a journalist asked my husband, the director, can I photograph your wife naked, just surrounded by films, raw films? And I just looked at him. I've even written lots of in this script, you know. And I just went out and I smashed the door. And that was my final kind of comment to being an object in movie.
So your perspective of entering as a filmmaker came from, as you were saying, a model and an actress. And how did you find that the industry and your surroundings responded to you wanting to step behind the camera?
Very difficult, because I was not taken serious at all. And even the second movie was also a revolt, a woman revolting to her marriage, to her husband, everything. And she's even shooting him in the end. So, I mean, it was very exact. And still, they wouldn't take me serious. Like, yeah, I was into some subject for a good reason. So then I divorced. I made this abortion movie, and I was completely on the ground of the society. I went to prostitutes, asking them what happens when you get pregnant. Oh, well, they take my child. I'm not having an abortion. They just wait until I born it, and then they give it away. And I was so shocked. And I knew that girls down to 16, if they didn't get abortion, that was this time, in 70s. And I started making this movie without any money.
What was your experience going to this first female seminar back in 73?
Well, that was so interesting. It was just the right thing for me. So I had to bring these camera people with me and to talk to the women, because it was such an opportunity. I didn't know anybody of them.
You haven't met anyone of them before?
Never.
Yeah. And we see you here in the interviewer role, but what did you take back? How did you take the experience of being here in Berlin in those days back home, and how did it influence the choices you made as a filmmaker going down your own path, career path?
We had this very good atmosphere when we spoke. It was such a new experience to sit there and being relaxed, not being in competition with women, you know. And it was a time where we had no makeup, we had no bras. It was, you know, a revolting time after 68. It was all the wars in that time, like it is now. So we were used to go in demonstration towards Vietnam War, Cambodia, you know. We were very political aware. And so I think we all had a wonderful time, and you can see that in the movie.
And when you, if you think back then, and if you had known that you would be sitting here on this stage 51 years later and seeing the progress or lack of progress made, what are your reflections on whether or not it has become easier?
No, stay there. I'll take it. So, no, well, it's not so surprising. It's the kind of, it was like an aha situation for me when the National Library called me and we found this movie. And I felt like I had just go in a circle around, expecting a lot to happening, seeing that I was losing all the time. In the end, I was stopped making movies completely. And I was, by the director of the Film Institute, that time, not this time, they were telling the festivals, they wanted my movies. No, don't take it. It is a shame. You shouldn't see her movies, you know. And so I was locked out. And And even I couldn't write my script. They said, you can't write a script. You go to a writer, a professional writer. And I said, but I can write. I wrote all my movies, 5 of them, 6. No. So I was, by the system, locked out. And I could never play in my own movies. I couldn't work with my husband and our own company. I couldn't, you know, until 20 years went. After 6 novels, then am I going too far?
No, that's fine.
And then in 1910, I got so, I was so engaged in the war coming up in Gaza 15 years ago. So I just took up my phone and I called an institution. It was called Free Words, which gives some money to start up a project. And I said, I have to go to Gaza, and I want to film these kids who's being killed, all these women, these guys. Please give me some money so I can go there. And they did. So I didn't come in. I went to Rafah, which is you have heard about that. And they sent me a bomb just beside of the car. So the car almost, then I understood that they know what they're doing here. Even outside their border, they're doing this. So even if we stayed there for 3 days trying to give our watch, whatever, they didn't let us in. But I went through, I got in connection with inside people, and I wrote the script, and bit by bit, and I asked them, go and film a family in the ruins, talk to the children, to the women, and give me the hospitals, let me see what happened. In that time, that was a feature documentary. We went straight to Toronto in Film Festival. So after 20 years, I again proved that I could make a movie and make impression. And I made also an important issue. This time not only based on humans' everyday life.
Vibeke, what drives you as a filmmaker? Why, with all the adversity and all the vilifying that you've been suffering in your career, what has made you go on, and what has been the driving force for wanting to become and stay a filmmaker?
It's for me personally. I feel there is more to it than just women should make movies. Because, and that proves today, the most important is to have power in the director's chair. If it is in the media, if it is in film, that's where the truth comes out, or the lies come out. And then we see that women today have no protections, like in wars. We have no human rights, just the paper. What is it worth? They're sitting maybe 4 men in dark suits. They're deciding if there should be a war or not a war. There is not a woman among them with any voice. So I'm starting with, what can I do? I have to fight to have a voice in the director's chair. That's where I can move people emotionally. But the system is like this. To have that chair, you can be dangerous. They don't want, maybe, women to move people's mind and heart. It looks like that. It has been systematic, kept on 26% all this time.
So how do you view women in the industry now compared to when you started? Have challenges for female filmmakers changed, do you think, or just taken new forms?
New forms.
In what ways?
Well, I'm afraid many of them, they're following in the man's steps. They're not renewing the film industry. They're not quite the challenge. They're not dangerous enough for the system, which today proves itself. All the plans they have had since we have been fighting our personal problems and human rights and all this, they have had plans of big wars. And we didn't know about that. And that comes up now. And always we have been having meetings on women, especially human rights, human's voice everywhere. It's just, garbage.
So you find in a way that what Claudia Aleman is saying in the film, that saying we're not following the rules, we're breaking the rules, that the women today are following the rules, they are not breaking them.
That's right.
Yeah. And for me, what struck me from this footage is sort of the spirit of you as a collective back then, of having this very refreshing hope that change is possible. And do you think that you would have thought back then, with the energy that you put into that it would take this long?
No, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know the system so well that I'm not surprised. Do you understand? So, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still full of hope. And I mean, I want to go on, fight. But I'm 80 years, so help me.
So, what do you hope for the next generation of female filmmakers will learn from your experience? And if you could have given your younger self one piece of advice, what would it have been?
Well, I'm having directed comments here. I'm very proud of. But I'm saying that we have to de-glamorize our ambitions in the movie as directors. Also males, if they mean anything. Because maybe you cannot go for the very big money to make and say something which is controversial. So this movie is also an example how simple you can make it just by sitting down, talking together, and using what you have. Because after all, the glamorous movies is made for a bigger industry in the States. Not in Europe. You can look back to Godard in the 60s. He made a revolution because he said, no, we don't need all this. We need to make our own movie, what we are interested in Europe. So that is my aim, that everybody should try to catch this older style of making movies and do more movies, and not sit there waiting for the money, for big bureaucracy, which we have met here today, and which is fantastic. But we're never coming close to it. Imagine all these movies I have made, all these novels I have made. I have the lowest pension you can imagine. Because each time I make a movie, I have to invest my movie into the movie to make this movie. And so I don't get any pension points. So, I mean, where can I reach this nice gentleman who stays here? I couldn't write this way they are asking for. Then I should have a doctor degree. You do understand? So
the requirements for film funding these days have, as you say, you need a PhD to write these applications. So I wanted to open up the floor if there are any comments or questions for Vibeke. Anybody feel compelled to say something? Yes.
Yeah, I saw the film already and I really love it.
I think, do we have a mic to go around so we will catch the sound?
you can take mine.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to watch this in a press screening 2 weeks ago, and it's refreshing. In the forum section, it is one of the more lively ones. All the rest is like completely static. This one still valid today, and that's why they probably put this in this biggest film festival in the world, right? So, and I also see that, as you said, the subject hasn't changed, just the conditions, or like the surrounding world. Now, filmmaking, everybody can do this with a phone. People here in this room are filming you right now. So I come from a movement where what you want has already happened because we have excluded money completely, because we have everything else we need, people and equipment, and we take everything else away just to have a bigger challenge, to know time as well. And then still, we make thousands and thousands of movies all over the world, just not the ones that you can perceive. They are in other film festivals than this big one. But in thousands and tens of thousands. So this has happened, and many, many more women do these kinds of films than funded films, as we've seen today, and also in the statistics. Because the statistics are taken from the top 1%. you know. So these are completely irrelevant, these statistics, to base political decisions on when so many more women are actually making films.
But then this panel and we should meet, come closer, and we should kind of speak together how to change
They
the
have
financial...
already left. The politicians have all left now. They're gone.
Yeah, that's a pity. They should stay here now.
They didn't want to talk to me.
Anyone else who wants to say something? Ariel? You'll get the
I'll speak up.
Yeah, fine.
we would like for the recording, so please use the mic.
Ariel
Yes.
is in the movie.
Yeah.
One of the things that was a factor at this time is that we didn't know the history behind us of women who had made films before. And so as a result, the work we were doing was new, a completely different sort of vision of what we saw that we wanted to document. And I think that historic moment makes the work that came out of the early 70s and really through most of the 70s extremely exciting and unusual. And so I think that we all need to go back and re-examine a lot of the work from that time period as historically significant. And then one point I want to make about the earlier panel that sort of mirrors what I'm trying to say is we're talking mostly about production. Film has many other aspects to it, like exhibition. And then at the very end is the issue of archiving. There's documentation that shows that women's work is archived in the global film cinema archive world at 1%. So if we don't document, put the 70s work into that material, we're going to lose that life.
Really important point. Yes, please, in the back. If you care to introduce yourself, that would be helpful.
My name is Sarah Gross. I'm a filmmaker based here in Berlin. And I just wanted to add to that, and based sort of in response to what you said, and what you were saying, that the making of the films is technically possible for a large majority also of women, but the distribution, so the sort of the big festival, the access to archiving and getting it out to a larger audience, and that's really the eye of the needle. And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that in terms of how it's changed, and let's give us some hope also for that aspect, maybe.
I'm thinking that we have to change the distribution system. The woman who makes the movie has to do something with that. Don't expect someone who is there to earn money on your movie should do that. We have to take that too. And all these aspects we have to go into, we have to use our knowledge and to try to have meetings and make possibility for all what you're talking about.
I think we have time for one more question, or comment, if somebody has it. No? Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I mean, this is like maybe the dream also that I have, just like make movies, get them out there, I have so many ideas. But what about my fear of not paying my rent, not paying for my child, you know, all these things. We also have to survive somehow. And I've made so many short films during the past years because I cannot survive from my first feature film, for example. But I think that the big thing is that we need to be able to live from our job, you know? My question is just how do you do it?
I mean, that's these people who was here today. They have to be confronted that we want to do it another way. They have to support us this possibility. They cannot just sit there and, as you're saying, talking about things who has already passed, which is not possible anymore, and we cannot use it, really. It's not for us. So that is our demand. They have to meet us. They have to be here after they have come with a political, very, nice performance. But then they go. I'm very disappointed.
luckily,
Why don't you keep them here? Yeah. You knew we were coming.
But we're recording this, Vibeke, so we'll make sure they see it, or we will find a way to insert ourselves in other ways.
Yes.
Wait for the microphone, because we're doing a recording and would like to hear it. Yeah.
No, basically, I'm not affiliated, but I do. Awareness is key. But there is a platform called Herflix, which is, they're trying to be obviously the equivalent of Netflix, but they're women's films and women's catalogue. So the more you're aware and you bring, you know, all your content to one systematic place and drive, and everyone helps to drive each other. I mean, it's a way to consolidate and, you know, make your content more seen. Herflix. I'm not a sponsor, I'm not a promoter, just I'm aware of it and what they're trying to do.
There's an urgent need to speak just behind you. If you could really quickly pass up the mic, and we'll take that as the final comment before we pass on.
I was in the panel. I'm not a politician, so I'm still here.
Yeah.
Hi. First of all, I want to say I so respect you and the work you've been doing, because you really paved the way for us. So, yeah, I cannot say how much I admire you. So thank you. And then, secondly, we're in the system now. I'm a producer. I can and I try to change the system from inside out. So women filmmakers, find yourself a good producer, a feminist, man or a woman, but he needs to be a feminist. So just find yourself a good producer. We can change the system from inside out now. We have the opportunities.
Well, I have a very good producer, but I don't share it with anybody.
On that
He's
note,
sitting here. Yeah. He really made this last movie, for me, impossible. He could write to the bureaucrat and get money. I couldn't.
So thank you very much, Vibeke, for sharing these exclusive clips with us ahead of tonight's world premiere. And I hope you get a chance to see the film at the festival here. It's playing at the Arsenal at 6:30 this evening and tomorrow at 12. Yes, thank you so much. And
I thank you. She made all this. Fantastic.
Okay, so I'm going to keep your attention for 5 more minutes. We're going to have our chair of the board, Bill Anderson, say a few words in closing, and then we'll have our final words also by a second speaker. Go ahead, Bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. Hi, I'm Bill Anderson. I'm chair of FERA. It's been ages since you heard me speak, and between when I spoke earlier and when I'm speaking now, you've had a panoply of really, really impressive people. We're stuck at the 26%. It's not a terribly encouraging number, but what I take away from today, just to mention the radical boldness after continuing 80 years of here, and then the PhD accountants with the numbers earlier on. I'm trying to kind of bridge the two. And what I feel is that the fight is not yet won, but it is in really good hands. And we are getting cleverer all the time. And the one thing that I want to take away something for FERA from today. And the thing I want to take is what it is we are going to do next week, tomorrow even, where we actually refocus our action. And for me, the really key, because we can't do everything all at once, or you need a big team to do a lot. The one thing that I think that we can do, that we can focus on, and it sounds like a mundane thing, is the pay gap, the gender pay gap, because the recurring factor from all the speakers is that this is all about money, ultimately. Whether it's a sort of a parity of spend in a fund or Eurimage actually making sure that they spend, it's all about money. And for me, parity of pay is about women being valued. You said the power is in the director's chair. It is there, and we have to value the woman who sits there as much as the man, because the money understands that measure of value. And I think that as a small activity towards parity, we must ensure that your children get fed when you work as a director, and that women are valued as much in whatever, whether they are doing it with their iPhones for distribution in festivals that many of the people here have never heard of, or whether they are winning prizes for large budget feature films. They must be paid the same as men, all directors. Look, I'll just give you two statistics. I've not got a PhD, two statistics that no one mentioned this morning. One, 50% of the audience paying for your work are women. Two, 50% of the voters who put the politicians in the power are women. And I will leave you with that parity.
Thank you, Bill. And I believe we have Else Gveinen from the who's Councillor for Press and Culture, who will say our final closing words. And I want to thank you very, very much on behalf of FERA to have hosted us today in this beautiful venue. Thank you, Else. Go ahead.
Thank you. Don't go yet. There's lunch at the end of this. So let's say a few very short remarks. That on behalf of the Norwegian Embassy in Berlin, I would really like to thank also the Federation of European Screen Directors and the European Film Agencies for organizing this important discussion here at the Nordic Fellowshus, which is the event, the joint event house for all the 5 Nordic embassies in Berlin. And it's the only place in the world that we have such a joint venue, so we're very happy about that. And the Nordic countries are often seen as forerunners for women's rights, and therefore we are also at the Nordic embassies always looking for possibilities to advance the topics of equality, diversity and inclusion. And this also includes looking at our own shortcomings. So I'm also extremely grateful to Vibeke for highlighting what the challenges were 50 years ago and what they are, and also to the other speakers, what still remains to be done. But there's another takeaway from these discussions I'd also like to point out, and that is, which was also mentioned, that in a political climate where the values, the important values of diversity, equality, and inclusion is actually being almost made into a swear word or a swear concept, DEI, something to be gotten rid of rather than something to be advanced. I think we need more than ever, and in the words of Emma Rafovich earlier on, we need to be united in defending culture. And to quote one of the other speakers, Daphne Tettner, if we do that, there is change. So that's the positive note. And finally, it's my great pleasure to invite you up to a networking luncheon up on the exhibition floor. That's up from this room and then up the stairs again, where we're also showing a Norwegian exhibition called Echt, Young Three-Dimensional Art from Norway. And I'm happy to say that out of the 5 artists, 3 are women. So do take a look around and please enjoy the conversation and continue the important debates up there. Thank you.